Good afternoon and welcome to Mickaboo's first virtual adoption fair. My name is Megan Cadell and I'm a volunteer with Mickaboo. I originally got involved when I adopted my two cherry-headed conures last year from Mickaboo. I love my companion birds and I'm excited that we can show you some of Mickaboo's birds who are looking for their forever homes. We wanted to start out today with just some of our logistics. Today, Mickaboo will be using the chat to send information to you about the birds you're seeing today. To find the chat on Zoom, please go ahead and look near the bottom of your Zoom window. You should see a Zoom toolbar. If you do not see a toolbar, you can hover your mouse over the bottom of your window and a toolbar should pop up. Go ahead and look for the chat icon. It'll look like a text message bubble and click that. When you click on the chat, it'll open up a pop-up window, and this is where you can access the links to the birds' adoption pages, as well as any social media links we might be sharing with you today. If you would like to ask us any questions or participate, you can do so in the Q&A box on Zoom. You'll want to go back down to your Zoom toolbar and look for the Q&A box. Go ahead and click Q&A and type in any questions that you may have here. If your question is about a specific bird, please go ahead and share their name so we can get you the right information. If you're joining us today on Facebook, please go ahead and put any questions that you have into the comment box. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our host today, Jonathan.
Hi all, I'm Jonathan Kessler, and like Megan, I'm a Mickaboo volunteer. In fact, pretty much everyone presenting here today are Mickaboo volunteers. We are a nonprofit 501c3 organization dedicated to education and the rescue and adoption of companions. So we are a virtual organization with no paid staff, and I'll put in a plug here. We rely on donations to serve the birds. You would think that there are birds on this call, and there are. About 200 or more birds come through Mickaboo every year, and they're taken in, they're given care and medical care when need be. And the costs are staggering. You know, we average $50,000 for medical care for foster birds every month. And that's just for essential medical care. So if you're able to help, please consider donating. All right, end of infomercial. We'll talk about the adoption and foster process. But before we do, we'd like to take a moment to address the current state of the world and state of events. Like so many of you, we are outraged and saddened by the racism, injustice, and violence that's dividing our country. Our work with myriad species of parrots confirms to us how our similarities override our differences. We humans are one species, so let's come together as one. Mickaboo stands with the Black community and those speaking out and acting for justice and equality. All right, the adoption process begins with our basic bird class, which some of you may have already taken. And we start with the education piece because parrots are not simple beings to care for, and they require a lot from us, their human companions. We cover parrot behavior, health and well-being, feeding, care, and other topics to ensure that our birds will be able to thrive in their new homes. We want you to be successful and for them to be successful. After you take the class, which we now offer online exclusively and will for the next little while, then and filling out an application so that you get into the system, then you're ready for the next step, which is a phone screen. So we have with us Linda from our phone screen team. Linda, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yay, Linda. So
Yay.
Tell us, what's the purpose of the phone screen and how does it work? What should people expect?
Okay, well, you've taken the basic bird care class and completed the online application. The third step in your application process is the phone screen. For us, the purpose of the phone screen is threefold. to determine whether you have basic understanding of Mickaboo's guidelines for bird care, to know why you want to adopt a bird, and to learn about birds you've previously owned. Please don't think of this as an interrogation. It is, of course, a way for us to find out what you learned in class. But most of all, it's a great opportunity for you to speak with an actual volunteer and ask them any questions you have about the class you took, about bird species, or about Mickaboo in general. A phone screen volunteer will call or email you to set up a date and time for your interview. It should take about 1 hour of your time or longer if you have questions. And boy, do we love questions. I am Linda Liebelt, co-chair of our marvelous team of phone screen volunteers. I do hope we'll be speaking with one of you real soon. Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks, Linda. That was great. So after a phone screen, then comes a home visit, which we're doing virtually now. And we have Martha from our home screen team. Martha's also our cockatiel coordinator, and we'll be talking to Martha about a couple of cockatiels later, or one in particular. So Martha, tell us a little about home visits and, you know, how they work now virtually and why we do them.
Thanks, Jonathan. The home visit's the final step in our approval process after the application and the phone screen. We set up a visit, usually takes about an hour if we do it in person. We're finding that, at least for me, doing them virtually, either FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, any kind of online platform you can use. It doesn't take quite as long, but this is designed to answer any questions that we might have after the phone screen, as well as those that are specific to your home. The goal is to set you up for a successful adoption. So we start by reviewing the application and the phone interview to see if there's anything in particular that needs to be looked at more closely, like your pets, or say your windows or doors or something in your kitchen. It's great to meet the pets if possible. I love meeting people's pets, especially their dogs and cats. And probably the most frequent question we get from adopters is, where do we put the cage? And where do we get the cage? And we can give you links for those to answer those questions and give you the best options for placing your cage. What we're looking for in a home visit is just safety for your bird and for your family. We don't look at the rooms that are your bird's not likely to be in. We're not going to go into your garage. We don't really care if you did your dishes today. We do look at where you expect your bird to live in his cage, so that he gets the best sunlight, gets a lot of attention, gets his 10 to 12 hours of sleep. We want to know if there's anything that's harmful to your bird, like Teflon, fireplaces, incense, pets, small children, doors that don't have screens, or windows that don't have screens on them. We'll also point out things that you might want to move away so your bird doesn't get to them and destroy them. And as I said, during the shelter in place, we're doing these exclusively virtually, so they don't take quite as long as a regular visit. These are actually, the whole process is actually really good for people who already have birds, because we can give you our ideas on ways that can make your bird's life even better. So that's, it doesn't take that long, and fortunately, it's now doing it virtually. You don't even have to have anybody come to your house, so it's really not bad.
Thank you, Martha. Thanks. Yeah, it's not the white glove test, and the whole process is really set up to help you be successful and help your birds be successful in integrating with you. So with that, after the home visit and being approved, then you get to meet some birds. And once the camera starts shaking, you'll see a beautiful pair of lovebirds. We're meeting birds virtually here. So we're going to talk with Jim, who is the foster parent of, and we spell that P-A-R-R-O-N-T. And with this beautiful pair of lovebirds, Maddie and Attica. Hi, Jim.
Hi there. How you doing today?
We're good. And how are Maddie and Attica? How long have you had these two?
I've only had these two for a couple of months now. They've come to me just recently.
Tell us a little about lovebirds in general and about these two. How are they similar? How are they different? Are they what's considered a bonded pair? That is, would they need to be adopted together?
Well, lovebirds are wonderful little critters, man. I fell in love with them as a species many years ago. Though the name lovebird sometimes is a miss, I have never had a problem with them. They can be mischievous, quite so in fact, very playful, and but I'll always find that to be part of their charm. These two aren't, well, they're similar in the fact that they're both lovebirds, but there's a big age difference between the two of them. Maddie, who's hiding in the back there, she's a 12-year-old, and Attica up here in front, he's about 2 or 3 years old. And
how long do they usually live?
They live usually between 10 and 15 years.
Okay.
And yeah, they're a very playful pair. I'm not exactly sure if they're actually bonded yet or just good friends, because they're okay spending quite a bit of time apart from each other, but I know they are getting close. And it would be good to see them go together, but I don't think it would be damaging if they didn't.
Is one of them a lot more outgoing or you know, out there in front than the other?
Absolutely. That would be Attica, who's probably a lot more into coming out and seeing you. Neither one of them is hand-tamed, but I don't believe Attica would take a lot of time to make him so. I just think nobody's actually spent the time with him yet.
So this is a good time to just talk a little bit about birds that aren't hand-tamed and how they can just be really fun companions as well.
Absolutely. And because I'm all for letting a bird be a bird if that's what they want to do, and which is great. They're fun to watch. I can still interact with them. It's just not an up close and in person kind of thing. I have had lovebirds that were very affectionate and liked the attention. That's just not how they all are.
What do these guys eat? What do they like to eat? What are their favorite foods?
Well, their favorite foods are grains and seeds, and if they're allowed to, that's all they'll ever eat, such as millet and that sort of thing. But myself, I make sure they have a good round set of pellets, high quality pellets of some sort. For these two right now, it's either Rowdy Bush or Lefebvre's, however you pronounce it. And on there, they also like the nutrient cakes that you can get from your vets, as well as a full a vegetable mash, right way to say it. It's chopped up vegetables and some fruit, grains, and I also added sprouted seeds to the mix there. And in fact, that's what I'll be doing tomorrow, is making a new batch.
Yep, fresh chop is great for birds. You started out mentioning seeds and nuts, and that's like, you know, chocolate bars for most parrots. They definitely, you know, just like our kids would eat chocolate bars all day if we let them, but it's important for them to have.
Absolutely.
Mentioned.
Yeah, they get 1 day a week where they get to have that, because if they got that in their food bowl, that's all they're going to eat. Let them have a good high quality mix, such as Volkmann's. But again, it's only a 1 day thing, and that's all they get. The rest of the time it's the other. They get plenty of exercise here. They get to fly free through the apartment as they want, and because I have a very enclosed area, and so it's safe for them, and I'm not concerned about them being able to escape.
Right, and that's an important thing, making sure that, you know, if they're out, that they cannot get out of the house or into
Absolutely.
It could be dangerous or damaging. So you said that they're a little bit different in terms of their activities. What do they each like to do, and what's maybe a fun story about one or both of them?
Well, I have a third lovebird that's my own too, and he's kind of been interjecting himself in here because he's a bit of a playboy. He kind of wants to get with Maddie, I think. And Maddox didn't have it, or Attica didn't have it though. But they do like to interact with each other. They like to go foraging through the carpet, and which gets a little disturbing sometimes. So we got to keep it clean. I'm always having to chase Attica out of our flowers because he likes to get in them and he likes pulling the leaves off of them, and which Maddie isn't too much into that. And she's far more interested in trying to find a place to nest, which is, we just don't let her do those things, and it's okay. They do like to fly and hang out and go to wherever they aren't supposed to be.
That sounds like birds. You mentioned two things that I just want to touch on for our viewers, and boy, they are cute. They sure like to interact. You mentioned them, Attica liking to pick the flowers, and I know you're talking about indoor flowers, and
Yes.
not the birds running around outside. And also that you don't let Maddie nest, and that's really, really important because we don't support breeding, and in fact you cannot breed Mickaboo birds. It's really stressful for parrots in captivity to start going through the cycle of hormones that goes with breeding. And one of the things that really encourages that in birds is having nesty stuff to do, nesty places to go, or materials with which to build nests. So Mickaboo as an organization really discourages that. And you mentioned it with Maddie, and that's just a great thing to call out. Would you say, other than not being hand-tamed, would these two, or lovebirds in general, be okay birds for a beginner?
Absolutely, they would be. They are a great bird for beginners. Because they're relatively simple to take care of. They don't really require a lot of work involved outside of making sure that they're fed and cleaned. The water bowl and food bowl is cleaned every day, and that their cage is kept clean. They can be quite well together by themselves and keep themselves entertained. Give them out of cage time if you can, and if not, just make sure you got a big cage for them so they got plenty of room to play.
Awesome. Do we have any questions coming in on chat about Maddie and Attica, or about lovebirds in general? One of the nice things about an adoption fair in person is that you can, interact with the bird and ask the foster parent questions about them. We can't quite interact with them here. We can sure observe them, and Jim is available. So it seems like as of now, we don't have questions. And if that's the case, going once, going twice, boy, these two are just beautiful.
They have a great time together. They do sometimes get a little persnickety with each other and seem to get into a little bit of a tiff, but that's not too often.
Hey, those of us who are married know we can get persnickety too, us humans.
Absolutely.
We always come back together. All right, thank you so much, Jim.
You're more than welcome. You have a great day now.
Yeah, you too. So we are now going to move to two different species of birds. You can see a blue and white budgie, sometimes called a parakeet, up there. That's PeeWee. And we'll also talk about Beasley the Canary. And with us we have Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hi.
How are you guys doing today?
Well, we're doing great. We're in a room full of budgies and canary, and so doesn't get much better. So
there's probably often a lot of little chittering and chattering and happy little bird noises.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since they're two very different species, let's start with PeeWee. How long have you had him? How did he come to Mickaboo?
PeeWee's a girl.
Ah.
And we've had her for a little over a year. We picked her up at one of the avian vets that Mickaboo works with for the birds. It wasn't clear to us at that time whether PeeWee had been surrendered or had been found and turned into a shelter. So we don't know her history exactly, but she's been with us for just over a year now.
And so budgies have different dietary requirements from, say, lovebirds, even though they're both pretty small. What does PeeWee eat, and what does she like to eat, and what's part of her important diet? I think I see a millet sprig hanging in there in her cage, and some greens.
So I'd like to just take a few seconds here to talk about budgies or parakeets in general.
Please,
Um,
yes.
Like the lovebirds, they're great starter birds, especially for somebody that's just getting started with birds as pets. They have really big personalities for such little birds. Most are trainable, at least most can be trained to step up on a finger, and many of them can learn to speak a few words at least. They chatter constantly. You can probably hear some of the chatter going on right now. And they just brighten up a home. Budgies chatter all day long. They're pretty social birds, and as you get into the bigger birds, we'll find out about birds' interactions with humans and the need for a lot of attention. Budgies are very social. They need attention. They especially like to be around other budgies. They will bond to people, but they don't require the same amount of attention as the larger parrots. PeeWee, you asked about diet. Her main diet is nutrient cakes, and Jim mentioned those also when he talked about the lovebirds. Those are available at the veterinarian. It's hard to see, but that's.
Yeah.
So there are cakes that are a combination of seed and pellet and other nutrients, so it's a very well-balanced diet. In addition to that, she, as you mentioned, has a millet spray that is kind of a treat for her to snack on periodically. She doesn't gorge herself on that because she gets most of what she needs from the cakes. And we also give her a fresh bunch of organic Italian parsley every day. She just kind of jumped behind it there. And so we wash that and get it good and wet and then hang it from the top of the cage. And well, it's nice and wet like that. She likes to jump into it and hang on it. That's her way of bathing on a daily basis.
It's a green bath.
That's pretty much it for diet on the budgies.
Now, budgies are really pretty social birds, right? And
Yes,
usually we like to see them in groups of 2 or more. I noticed that PeeWee's in her own cage. I'm guessing that there are some budgies right next door?
Yes, we keep her separate from the other budgies because they're all males and she's a female. And as you mentioned earlier, we don't want to have any breeding situation going on.
Right, but she can still interact with the other birds, so she's getting her social needs met.
Exactly. Yeah, she likes to be around the other birds. She's a little on the shy side, and she does tend to like her own space. So, as I mentioned, we keep her away from the males, and she enjoys their company. We think it would be great if she could go into a home that already has a couple of budgies,
Right.
or if we could go into a home that's planning to have more than one.
Right.
Because I think, well, I believe that if somebody was willing to spend the time with her, they could get her to step up on a finger and be more of a people bird. As Jim mentioned, we kind of like birds to just be their own birds. And so we haven't spent much time trying to train her. So I think it would be great if she could go into a home that have other budgies or are planning to have other budgies.
Awesome.
You mentioned it's nice to have 2 or more. We did an experiment. At one point, we had 3, and we found out that that can be a little problematic, as 2 of them may pair up and exclude the other. So that's why we have 4 in another pair of cages.
Right, right. So she looks like a really neat bird. It's just fun watching her interact. You also have Beasley the Canary.
Yes, we do.
He's a completely different species and not even part of the parrot family. Tell us a little about Beasley, who he is and what he likes to do and what he needs to eat.
Let me reposition the camera so you can see him.
Hey, that looks like a canary. Hi, Beasley. He's small, quite a bit smaller than PeeWee.
I would say he's maybe 2/3 the size
Yeah.
half to 2/3 the size, and that's pretty normal for a canary.
Yep.
They don't seem to require the same level of social interaction as the budgies and parrots do. Beasley in particular is very happy, whether he's all by himself in a room or in a room with other birds and people. And you can see him flitting around there. He's a very active bird, and he sings a lot, especially in the mornings and in the late afternoons. He's a remarkable singer. We just love listening to him sing all day long.
So he would probably do well in a house with people who like music and singing. Now,
Yeah.
is he also a seed eater primarily?
He's got a little bit more varied diet. He eats a combination of Dr. Harvey's incredible canary food, which I'll hold up in front of the camera here for just a second. So that's Dr. Harvey's. We found this on Amazon. It was recommended to us by one of the canary people with Mickaboo.
It looks incredible.
Yeah, and he also gets Harrison's.
Right.
It's
Super
a high
fine.
potency superfine for small birds.
Right.
He also gets a variety of organic Italian parsley, just like the budgies. You can see some of it hanging from the top of the cage. He gets other fruits and vegetables. He absolutely loves raw corn kernels. And he also has a millet spray that he's not as interested in the millet as the other birds, but he does enjoy snacking on it a little bit occasionally.
That's great. It's really nice to see him. We have a question coming in.
Okay.
And so the question is about the lifespan of the species we've talked to thus far. Parrots, and I can't speak to canaries. Do you happen to know what a typical canary lifespan is?
Oh.
We'll
I don't have an answer to that question, but I'm sure we can
we'll
get
have
an
to look
answer.
into that, and one of our virtual hosts can look on that. Parrots, in general, are very long-lived animals, remarkable for how small they are. So budgies, for example, budgies can live 20 years, 18, 20 years. Lovebirds can live 15 to 20 years, and those are some of the smaller parrot species. The bigger birds like cockatiels, who are only slightly bigger, can live 30, 32, 35 years. And then some of the bigger birds like Amazons and African greys and macaws and cockatoos can live upwards of 80 years, even 100 years or more. It's really quite remarkable. And canaries, I'm told, are about 10 years, possibly 10 to 15. So thank you all our virtual hosts who are so quick with data. This is great. And yeah, Brian, thank you so much for sharing Beasley and PeeWee, and hopefully they'll find some forever homes soon.
Yeah, they're both great birds. And the last thing, I just want to close by saying that Beasley has an ongoing competition with a vacuum cleaner to see who can be loudest.
Ah, good thing Beasley's not in Amazon.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Brian. We're going to go now to our celebrity guest, and believe it or not, it's not the biped without feathers in front. It's our lovely Jolie, who is an Indian ringneck, and Heidi is here to tell us we're going to talk about Jolie and another ringneck named Taz. Hey, Heidi.
Hi, Jonathan. Hello,
Hi,
everyone. I have to make one correction. We're going to start with Taz.
Oh,
You
great.
just see right here.
Yep.
So she's a green Indian ringneck. And then we're going to show Jolie, who is our celebrity bird. So very quickly, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Heidi. I'm the ringneck coordinator. And there are different types of ringnecks. We have Indian ringnecks, African ringnecks, and there's also moustache and Alexandrines. They're much bigger. African ringnecks are slightly smaller than what you see here. This is an Indian ringneck. And She is obviously a female, and this is one of the few species that are dimorphic, which means you can distinguish between males and females.
Right. Most parrot species, they look much more similar.
Correct.
So tell us a little about the personality of ringnecks in general, and then we'll talk a little bit about Taz and then Jolie. What are ringnecks like?
So ringnecks can be very different depending on the individual bird, and I think this is true for every parrot.
Yes.
The one thing they have in common, they can be loud, so they make an alarm call, and sometimes in the morning or evening, where they would be loud. Right now we don't really hear anything, but maybe that's coming up later. But in general, they're very curious birds. They like to check out things. So you can see here, Taz is looking around, you know, where she could fly to. And both Taz and Jolie are flighted birds. And we just found they're very happy with that. If you have the space, like we do, you know, where they can go to different places, they just love to fly.
Awesome. What do these guys eat, and what are some favorite foods?
So Knut, when he talks about Jolie, will go a little bit more into that, and we're going to show you some food. So we just switch the order a little bit because that's better to organize for us.
Yeah.
But they do like every parrot, they like fruits and pellets, and we also make some special birdie bread, and Knut is going to show you that on camera.
So we've talked today about some of these birds enjoying flying and being free-flighted. And if one of our virtual hosts will hold a question for that at the end of Q&A when we can talk a little bit, it can be a really good thing for parrots to be able to fly. Sometimes it's not indicated, and I just want to sort of make a placeholder for that at the end. So besides flying around and exploring, what does Taz like to do? She's certainly a really lively bird.
Yeah, so Taz is still a pretty young bird. She is about 6 years old, and
their lifespan, since people were asking,
they can be I think it's hard to say, but between 25 and 30 years, I would say. Some might get older as well.
Awesome. Okay, and you were saying she likes to perch.
Yeah, she likes to be on. She's really tame, and I would say from the interaction that I've watched, that she likes women a little bit better. And once she picks that person, and in this case me, she loves to be on the shoulder. I can do the dishes with her on the shoulder. She likes to be carried around, and of course flying around as well. And otherwise, you know, we cover her up at night, give her some toys to play with, and sometimes she just hangs out here with us. You know, when we have dinner, we have this climbing tree here in the background. All the parents out there and be with you.
Does I see some puzzle toys back there. Does she like puzzles?
Yeah, she just started to get into that. Jolie is definitely much better with it, but they figure out things very quickly. They're very smart birds.
Do you have a favorite story about Taz before we go to Jolie?
Yeah, she makes this really cute noise when she's still covered up. And I have to say, both of the birds that we have, the Indian ringnecks, are not morning people or birds. They like to sleep in. And then, you know, when it gets too late, she makes this really cute noise. It's like a tickle-tackle thing, like, you know, I can't even mimic it, and it's really cute.
And do you think that Taz would be an okay bird for someone who didn't have a lot of parrot experience?
I would say yes, because she is very much tame. She doesn't bite, but it needs to be I wouldn't say she never bites. I mean, obviously every bird who gets annoyed by something would give you a nip. But in general, if she is comfortable with that person and she decides that's my person, I think she is really, really easy to care for.
Wonderful. And I think you said someone was asking online that she's 6 years old.
She's 6 years old now, yeah.
Wonderful.
They're very young.
So let's meet the star of Facebook.
Okay, so I'm going to transfer over to Knut. He's going to talk about Jolie.
Hi, Knut. Hi, Jolie.
Hello. I'm going to pick up Jolie, so bear with me for a minute. We're doing a flying change. Jolie, you're the star. Come on. Here's Jolie. Oh, Jolie.
There's
So,
Jolie. Hi,
there's
Jolie. He's
She
right
makes
on
a
screen.
start, right on cue.
Tell us a little bit about Jolie.
So Jolie has been with us for about 5 years. She was found in a schoolyard. I keep saying she joined Mickaboo in search of an education. And there are things that she figured out very quickly, such as how to get a treat by opening a mystery barrel.
Right, I just saw
You may have watched her.
out.
So she is the one who is the master of the toys.
So about how old is she?
We don't know because her origins are before she joined Mickaboo are unknown. She's been with Mickaboo for about 6 years now, if I remember correctly. Even we had her now for 5.5 years. Okay. And have been fostering her and have been practicing with her. And she is not hand tame. She is actually afraid of hands and will, when they are too close, she will attack them. But what she has absolutely no problem with is when the hands carry a treat, such like this small sliver of almond, and then she's a very well-behaved bird. And what I wanted to show a little bit more is I wanted to show what we're feeding them. So these here are 2 types of Harrison pellets. Jolie likes both of them, the small ones and the coarse ones with peppers.
Yeah.
We also serve her with birdie bread. This is when it is ready to serve for the birds our size. So Jolie, and we also have a small maroon-bellied conure. And
when you say birdie bread, is that something that you make?
That's something that I'm making about once a month. Right now, she doesn't like my fingers, so she doesn't get any birdie bread. So she loves to eat it. All our birds like it. It's something that I'm baking fresh from scratch. It's a recipe that I found a long time ago on the parent pantry, and I'd be happy to share with anybody. It's very easy to make. Just put everything in a bowl, put it on a cookie sheet, spread it out, and bake it for about 45 minutes. And then I cut it into little squares, 1-inch squares.
Wonderful. Yeah, we saw the little squares. Now, I noticed that she is not on your shoulder, and as you said, she's not hand tame. So she's more of a hands-off and share our space and interact in other ways sort of bird, right? I just lost your audio, Knut. Lost your audio. But if we could hear him, Knut would be saying really cool and cool things. There we go.
I'm here. Good. So sorry for that. I don't know how that happened, but this Jolie is really independent. She is curious. She likes to interact. She does not like to be handled. So she never experienced head scratches, which is a little bit of an unfortunate situation. And she knows a few other tricks. And right now she's practicing with her most valuable toy. She learned how to trade this. Turn around, Jolie. Turn around. Turn around. Now drop it. Thank you.
Wow.
So she is very trainable. And if we want to get her to go anywhere, this is a power tool to work with Jolie. And she does a step up on it.
Onto it. Yeah.
Yeah, she does a step up on it, and she does it under pretty much any circumstances. We never had a big problem with her. And sometimes she likes to fly away inside our unit for sure. And she always comes for a treat. And what we've done is we trained her to expect a little slice of almond whenever she goes back to her cage.
Yep.
And so all I have to do is walk up to her cage, make sure that she recognizes that I'm doing this, and she comes, slides into her cage, gets an almond, door is closed, and Jolie is back in a secure environment.
So I really appreciate you showing, how rewarding and fun it can be to interact with a bird who is not hand tame and is not likely to be hand tame. Would you say, based on that, it seems like she would be not so much a bird for a beginner, but a great bird for someone who has experience with parrots?
She would be a really, really great bird for somebody who is interested in an independent bird, in a really smart bird, somebody who likes working the game of staying ahead of Jolie, so outsmarting her when she has a certain habit, figuring out what it takes to stop her from doing that. And she loves interaction. She just doesn't love personal interaction. Right. And so right now she is out of sight. You see her tail feathers. But she is really a very rewarding bird. She is our songbird. So in the evening when she's relaxed, she pulls off her entire cockatiel repertoire. She's been living with the cockatiel for a little while. She's picking up sound bites from every other our fosters that we have. So we had for a couple of weeks some of the Telegraph Hill Conures. She has a little bit of a tune from them.
So
a little bit of the rah-rah.
She's multilingual is what we're saying.
She is multilingual, and
we are needing to wrap up here.
Yep.
Thank you, Jolie. It's wonderful meeting you. Thank you, Knut and Heidi and Kaz. Wonderful to meet you all.
Thank you.
We're going to go to two very different species, actually. Species. Yeah. There we go. And hi, Cindy. This is Cindy.
Hello.
And Mr. Magoo.
I think you can hear me. You can probably hear Mr. Magoo here.
Yep, we can hear him. He's got a lovely yellow head. Tell us a little bit about Mr. Magoo. He's an Amazon. Yeah.
He's a double-headed yellow Amazon. He's a male. He's 18 years old. So he's really at the prime of his life. They live in captivity often 40 to 50 years. They can live they can even live longer than that. He's just a beautiful, Amazon.
He sure is. Now, it's hard to tell size. We're doing video. The birds aren't next to each other, but he is probably twice as big as
Yeah. Oh, he went out of camera here. Where are you, guys?
That's okay. There he is. He's
I'm going to try to give you a size comparison. That's my phone.
Yeah.
That's him.
Yep.
You think it's funny too, huh, Magoo?
How would you describe him? First, tell us a little about Amazons in general. Now, Amazons generally are not good beginner birds for a number of reasons.
Yeah, they're great companions. They're actually my experience with them, and I've fostered two and I've had two myself, is they're very stable birds. They actually, like Mr. Magoo, at least, my experience is they like to, make sure he's still in the camera. He's got a big cage, and that's one of the things is that they need a big cage because they're a big bird. But they're very stable personalities. He loves to be around people and other birds. So we have other birds here, and he just loves it. He just loves to be around, and he has his talking times. And of course, right now, because we're talking and he's being profiled, he's just loving it. But they also are, they are not a good beginner bird. You have to be careful with them. And also, they do have big beaks. And as was mentioned earlier in this video, all birds do bite at one time or another. And this guy in particular, he will come out with a stick. If you put your arm out, he will bite you right now. But he comes out on the stick. He will sit on his cage. He'll sit on his cage door, and he's just happy for hours sitting on his cage door and on the top of his cage, just hanging out.
He's a happy to hang out kind of bird. He's got a lot to say. Amazons are not really very quiet birds.
No, they're not quiet. They're quiet at night. I mean, he's quiet at night, but he does have his time, and he's definitely not an apartment bird.
Right. That's a really good point to make. Yeah, he's got lots to say. He's a really handsome guy. And you mentioned that at the moment he's a bit of a biter. That is, he's developed a habit of biting, which, you know, like any other habit, could be worked with. But it's not something that is, you know, not all Amazons have that habit. Let's see. I don't think we've touched on, but tell us a little bit about his diet. He, as a bigger bird, might be getting
so he eats
different
and I'm going to just show you it. He eats the Harrison pellets, and he also eats. So he eats the Harrison's big bird pellets, and he eats fruits and vegetables. So we give him different fruits and vegetables twice a day. He likes. I know they're very noisy when they get when they get going. There's 3 of them in here, so I might actually just pop off for a minute and run off to get a little more quiet. He likes pomegranate. He gets apple and banana. He also gets carrot, which he likes, and he gets green beans and peas. And we just try him on different fruits and vegetables and see what he likes. But he switched over very easily to the Harrison's pellets. And it's the Harrison pellet with red pepper, and he really likes those a lot.
Excellent. I'm just going to make a little interjection. A common theme here with all our birds is pellets are a really good foundation for their diet, plus fruits and vegetables, not so much seeds and nuts, which are super high fat, and because they're not eating wild, they don't burn all that fat that they would wild birds. So yeah, pellets and fruits and vegetables are the way to... Oh gosh, you have a lot to say, buddy.
He is doing his CB radios. So his first owner was a trucker, and when he gets going, he does his little CB radio, and he has a little time in the afternoon. He'll do that, and then he's really quiet for a good chunk of the day. And then he has these times when he just likes to talk and do his screaming in his little radio. And he also says, "Here, kitty, kitty," and he says, "Hi, Magoo.
Hi,
Magoo. You want to say that, baby?" And he laughs.
He's got a great laugh. So because we're on a fixed time here, we have 2 other birds of a very different species. We have the pair of Conures, Maddox and Jellybean, who look like they're...
moving the chair over to these guys here.
Perfect. We can see them. There they are. There you go. So which one's Sebastian? Which one is Jellybean? Are they the same sort of conure? They look about the same size, but they're a little different.
So they're a little different. One is a cherry head. That is, hey, Magoo, your time's done. We're talking to the guys. Okay. Sebastian is the one here in the front. He is a mitered conure. And then Jellybean is the one a little further back. He is a cherry head. So they're slightly different species, but they actually bonded for the birds. They were being boarded. Mickaboo was boarding them, and they bonded. So they are a bonded pair. They're both males. And what I would say about their personalities is Sebastian is a little more, he was clearly somebody's pet. He likes to come out and fly and sit on you. And you can see, though, he had a little bit of a rough background. Some of the tips of his toes, half of his toes are missing. But that doesn't keep him from climbing around and being in a normal cage. And then Jellybean is a little shyer. He likes to follow Sebastian. So if Sebastian comes out, he'll come out of the cage too, but he'll keep his distance. So he doesn't like to be on people, but he'll keep his distance. So they're actually a very happy pair. They don't take that much work. They since they're bonded, they really, they cuddle. They're just so sweet. They cuddle each other. They preen each other. They love to take baths. I mean, they just get sopping wet in their water dish.
You mentioned baths, so they have a water dish they like to bathe in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Different birds like to bathe in different ways. We saw PeeWee the budgie like to bathe in his hanging parsley. These guys take baths in baths. Conures can be, like Mr. Magoo, these guys can be kind of loud, right?
They can. They have their times that they're loud, and it's usually sunrise, sunset, and then if I'm on the phone. But they're very good at night, and again, you know, they're not noisy at night at all. But again, they are not an apartment bird because they can get quite loud as well.
So
now these guys in particular as well, what to know about Jellybean and Sebastian is that, like I said, Jellybean is a little shy. Sebastian will land on you, but again, he does tend to bite a bit sometimes, so he needs somebody who has, you know, a little more patience to, like I said, once upon a time he was somebody's bird. And there they go. That's how loud they can get. They can crank it up. They've got that little screech that, but they are just wonderful birds too. And they're a kind of bird that, again, they need some human interaction, but they're very happy to just be around and be ambient with other birds and people. And then I let them fly around a bit in the room, and then they go back in their cage on their own. And they're very happy guys. We don't know their age exactly. Sebastian's a little older than Jellybean. The mitered live to be 30. I think the cherry heads live to be a little less, maybe 25. And I think Sebastian's maybe 20 and Jellybean is maybe 10.
Got it. They're really, really neat birds, really pretty, and they look like they have a good time together. Any favorite story about these two?
Oh boy. Well, one time Sebastian came out and he landed on my head, and he started just very, very gently preening the top of my head. He was very, very happy to do that.
Very sweet.
Yeah. He's a good boy.
So, do we have any questions about either Mr. Magoo or Sebastian or Jellybean coming in from chat? Or about Amazons or Conures? Jellybean the Amazon. No, that's not right.
Mr. Magoo's the Amazon.
Yep.
Jellybean's the cherry head, and Sebastian is the mitered.
Wonderful. Cindy, thank you so much for sharing these wonderful birds with us. And
yep, absolutely.
And with that,
say bye, guys.
Bye. Bye, Mr. Magoo. Bye, Jellybean. Bye, Sebastian. Bye, Cindy. And here's a familiar face. Hi, Martha.
Hi.
Is that Porthos?
This is Porthos.
Now, Martha, you're our cockatiel coordinator. So if you would, tell us a little bit about cockatiels.
Well, cockatiels are like budgies, come from Australia. So they are mostly ground feeders. They do tend to eat more seed than some of the other parrots. And I call them kind of dry birds because they don't drink a lot of water. And the way they like to bathe is they love to get misted. Occasionally I see them get into a dish and they'll get like their chest wet a little bit, just a little bit. But you get one of those misting, like a spray bottle, and mist them, and they just go to town. They love that. So I think they're just used to getting rained on in Australia. And
they can be decent talkers and singers, right?
Yes, they can. If you get them started early, I think. He does say a few little things, mostly when I'm not around. And he will sing. He will sing to my feet. Because cockatiels love feet for some reason. I don't know what they see in them. And he's a normal gray, so he's the color that you would see in the wild. But there are other mutations, color mutations. So you can see pied and pearl and lutino, the yellow ones. So they all seem to have their own personalities, not just between birds, but between the colors too. Yes, aren't you a good boy? Yes.
Yeah, he seems very friendly. Tell us a little bit about Porthos.
Porthos came to us 12 years ago, and he was rescued with a couple other birds, actually 4 other cockatiels that were free-flighted in a mobile home that the rescuer said smelled like meth and crack and cigarette smoke, and it was just a terrible place for really anything to live. Plus, there were 6 cats, and he came with 2 buddies, and they got called the 3 Musketeers. Right. So Athos, Porthos, and Aramis, and were adopted that way. And when the other 2 had passed on, the adopter couldn't take him to an apartment she was moving into. So we took him. We took him back because Mickaboo birds are always Mickaboo birds. We will always take them back. Yes. Aren't you a good boy? Are you talking? Are you talking to me? Huh? So the adopter had him for about 8 years, and then we've had him now for a couple of years, almost 2 years. And he's really sweet. He's a very good people person. He seems to like people more than other birds, although he gets along with the other cockatiels. And he likes to get scritches. Yep. He likes to fly. He flies really well. He can fly to my shoulder from the other room. And he eats well. He's just a really good, sweet bird. The reason he's plucked is when birds are in sort of close quarters and they don't have anything else to do, they will overpreen each other. And the other 2 birds that he came with looked fine, and he was the one that got all the preening. So a lot of the feathers won't grow back because the feather follicles have been damaged. Right. But he's still so cute, aren't you?
He's a real boy. Now, should cockatiels like budgies be in pairs or groups, or? Absolutely.
Even though he likes people, we really prefer that all cockatiels be at least with another cockatiel. They're flock birds. They love to be with other birds, and sometimes they'll, even if it's not their own species, they will tend to bond with them. We've recently seen 2 instances of conures bonding with cockatiels. So that's sort of interesting. Are you taking?
We can all get along, right? We can all get along.
Yeah, they can, but you have to be very, very careful.
Yeah. I was just using a human metaphor for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah. We actually, at Mickaboo, we stress that you need to be really careful with individual birds being out together, and especially with different species, and most especially with different species of different sizes, because it's just way too fast and easy for somebody to get really, really badly hurt.
Right. Yes, baby. Yes. Yeah. And this is what, so what he likes to eat is all the birds get the nutrient cakes that we get from our vet. And they also get a lot of greens, dark leafy greens. They get broccoli, carrots, kale. They love salad mixes.
They'll be chopped up pretty fine for these guys?
No. They get, I just clip it to the cage and they just put it down on it, chew on it. Yeah.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah. Yes, baby. Are you good? Yes. Oh, one thing I wanted to say about cockatiels that somebody mentioned how all parrots do bite, but what I found with cockatiels is the only time they bite hard is when they're so scared that they really have no other option. So they're really pretty safe bird to, if you're worried about your small children. I mean, you still need to supervise your children when you're around birds, but these guys really wouldn't hurt a fly.
You need to be mindful of the children could possibly hurt the bird.
Exactly.
It is unlikely to hurt the children.
Right.
Someone asked, do we know about how old he is? He's been in the Mickaboo system for about 12 years, you said.
We're saying he's about 15.
Okay.
When I took him to the vet, I think last year, she said that he's in good shape in that he can preen, he can move around, so he doesn't have like a lot of arthritis that you can see in older birds. So even though he kind of looks like an old man, he's really only, he's getting into he's sort of middle-aged, I guess. Yeah.
Got it. We won't talk about the middle-aged thing.
No. Yes, maybe. Yeah.
Now, Mickaboo has a number of cockatiels who are needing adoption. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're a popular bird, they come in larger numbers again.
A lot of strays. And then people just surrender them for a variety of reasons. But sometimes it has to do with allergies because these birds can be really dusty. Or they move someplace where they, like the woman who had to give him back, she couldn't she couldn't have him in an apartment where he would be too noisy, even though he's not even all that noisy. So.
Yeah, cockatiels aren't particularly noisy birds.
When you get 13 of them in a room, though, they are. Yes.
Yeah.
They wake me up every morning.
Yeah. Most adopters don't tend to have 13, though. Boy,
No.
what a sweet boy he is.
Yes, you are. You're so sweet. You're such a good boy.
Do we have other questions about cockatiels or about Porthos coming in? So lifespan of cockatiels, they can live to be 30, 32 years old.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people, most of the people that I've met in doing home visits say their birds live to be 18 to 25 maybe.
Right.
And some of it just depends. Like a lot of the birds that we get, maybe they had not a very good start and had an all-seed diet. So, maybe they won't live to the absolute ultimate lifespan, but we give them the best life we can while we have them.
So a question just came in, can a budgie and a cockatiel share a cage?
They can. You want to make sure the cage is big enough so that the cockatiel can get away from the budgie.
Even though the budgie is smaller.
Budgies will just harass another bird no matter what. They're like hummingbirds, they don't know how small they are. And one of our volunteers said that one of the best methods of cockatiel birth control is to put a budgie in a cage with them. Because that keeps them from even thinking about wanting to have babies. So they can, but again, like you said, you have to be careful with any two birds and keep an eye on them. And give them lots and lots of space.
Thank you so much, Martha. Let's see, sure. We are at time.
Okay.
We are going to open it up to general questions. If people have questions. One thing that I wanted to address, because it came up with several of our birds, several of the birds we featured are flighted. There's a lot of controversy in the bird community about whether to clip birds' wings or not. And in general, on the argument for clipping them is that, it is more difficult for the bird to get out if someone accidentally leaves the door open for a couple of minutes. Of course, if you leave it open for, an hour, then even a non-flighted bird can get out. And if birds get out of the house, there's just all sorts of really bad things that can happen. We live in a world that's full of predators. On the side of allowing them to be free-flighted, that's what they naturally do. It's their escape from danger and predators. So it gives them the opportunity to exercise. It gives them a way to get away from things that are scary, and it often alleviates a lot of behaviors. And so it's a decision that people have to make individually. Generally, unless we're dealing with someone who's got a lot of bird experience, we ask that our fosters stay clipped. We do make exceptions for that. So we have another question. Which birds are better for people with allergies? And I'll go to the second question first. Martha, this one is for you. What's the minimum cage size for cockatiels? And I'll add, in asking that question, that you really don't want to think about what's the minimum size, because minimum is always the least good that you can do. So the question is really, how much cage can you fit in your space? But Martha, what would you say minimum cage size is for cockatiels?
It's about 24 by 20, and wider is better than height.
Right.
Yeah.
And something that's really important while we're talking about cages is the bar spacing. Smaller birds need bars closer together. Bigger birds, bars can be further apart. but it's really critical. If the space is big enough for a bird to get its head through, really awful things can happen. Birds can get stuck and not realize they can get out and, harm or kill themselves. So in addition to the size of the cage, which is very important, the bar spacing is also really, really important. And when we do the home visit and over the course of the classes and even the phone screen, we can talk to you about cage specifics for the particular species of bird that you're interested in. So which birds are better for people with allergies? If anyone of our virtual hosts wants to propose a couple, I will watch. I can say that birds that tend to be dustier and therefore less good include cockatiels and cockatoos and African grays. If you go to an African gray or a cockatoo, you will see a cloud of white dust coming off. And that's really important for their feathers. Also, question for Jim while I'm waiting for some more input on birds that are good for people with allergies. Jim, we have a question about Attica and Maddie. Is Maddie still on liver medication?
No, she isn't anymore. She was off the liver medication as soon as she came to me. And now that she's on a healthy diet, she's absolutely wonderful and tests clean.
That's great news. Great news.
Lovebirds are great for people with allergies too.
Excellent. Budgies too? And Conures, I'm guessing. I'm just guessing with Conures, but if anyone wants to... All right. Oh, no, not budgies. Okay, yeah, the Australian birds are dusty. So budgies, cockatiels, cockatoos. Thank you, Pam. Other questions? I really want to thank everyone here for attending. This is our first ever virtual adoption fair, and all of you attending were really instrumental in making it a success, as well as all of our foster parents and all of the people behind the scenes who made this possible. This is the first one, so if you have ideas or comments or suggestions on how we can make it better, put them in chat or email us through our website. We're looking to get better. We're going to do another one of these on July 18th. So come on back. We have a lot of, this just in, Poicephalus are good birds for people with allergies. They're also really fun. And also the word on cockatoo cage size and that 24 by 20, that kind of minimum is only if the bird's going to be out of the cage a lot. So that's important. We have lots of other birds who need forever homes of these species and other species, African grays and macaws and different types of conures and Poicephalus like Senegals and Myers, lots of birds. So please take a look at the website. If you fell in love with one of these birds and want to move forward with adoption, that's wonderful. If you didn't see the bird that seems right for you, take a look at the website. And you can donate at the website mickaboo.org/donate or /donate-funds. Again, we'll be back online doing this on July 18th. And again, thank you to, for our foster parents and their birds being brave enough to come on video and everyone else who provided technical support. The questions are still trickling in. There's a question, is there a trial period in the process of adoption? So I'll explain a little bit about the difference between fostering and adoption. And yes, essentially there is a trial period. So Mickaboo relies on volunteers, and as birds come in, we need places for them to land and be taken in and cared for. Those are foster. And Mickaboo pays for veterinary bills and will provide a cage for foster birds, birds that are in foster. Adoption, you become the owner of the bird, you become responsible for all the costs. And there is a 60-day period in which, you know, maybe it doesn't work out. You've vetted the bird, you guys met, it seemed like it was a good match, and it turns out not to be a good match. That's an okay thing. And even, you know, it were to happen later, a Mickaboo bird is always kind of a Mickaboo bird, and we will take them back if something changes or something happens. Question came in about zoonotic diseases. That's something we cover in our basic bird class. So I'm gonna leave that for there because it's a deeper topic than we have time for here. All right, so we are going to roll video. Again, thank you all so much for being here. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you.